Makes me think of kind of the story that I wanted to share as well of what happens when you get to watch people grow up and what happens when you get to watch people mature in their faith and in their life. When we first went to Tanzania, my wife and I, we did not go with the idea of starting a college. We didn't actually go with the idea of staying long term. It was supposed to be 4 months, became over a decade. That's a whole different story. But we didn't go with the idea of starting a college, and we did other work along the way, started a secondary school, planted churches, and did some different things. And while we were building the secondary school, we had a construction team, and there was one really young guy on it. And he introduced himself to me one day. He was one of the only ones that spoke English, and at the time, my Swahili wasn't very good, and so he was helping me communicate. And then he's like, well, do you want to learn more about this town? And so he'd walk me around town and share different things, and kind of was just sharing his life with me. And you could see so much intelligence and potential and passion in him. And he was like 15, 16 years old. And so I asked him one day, why are you not in school? Why are you working construction? You clearly have the intelligence for it. I know you haven't finished your education yet. And he shared with me a little bit about his life. His father had gotten a second wife, not too uncommon in that culture, and had chased his mom and his siblings out of away from their family land, out of the house. And so him and his brother were renting a really rundown, hole-in-the-wall kind of mud floor place. His mom was staying with his older sister, who had a family. The family had to separate in order to be able to find places to live. And so all the money he was making from working construction and day labor in different places was going to support his family, most importantly his younger brother, who, even though the entire family was smart, they felt like his youngest brother was the one that had the best shot of making it. And so they were trying to support him in his education and make sure that he could finish school. And that really touched me. And so we completed the secondary school, and we were able to find sponsorship for him to attend the school that he had helped build. And he got all the way through high school and finished high school, and then immediately went to work. In his mind, he had all the grades for college, but immediately in his mind, like, what he had to do was go back to work. And so he worked for several years, started a small business, was supporting his mom with her chronic health challenges, but really always had this heart to give back to his community. He would multiple times say, at some point, I want to do some of what you do. I want to be able to help people not end up like I did when I got kicked out of my home and I had nowhere to go, and I didn't know what to do with my family and didn't know how to help. And he's one of the oldest male children in his family, so felt a lot of responsibility for that. And he eventually was able, this was years before we opened Wesley College, and he was able to get a spot at Wesley College when we finally opened and study community development, and was able to get a scholarship, and we got him all the way through college. And when he graduated, he did exactly what he said. You would think at this point he's got a diploma, he's still got people to take care of, he now has the education he needs to go get a good paying job. He's back in his community working for a ministry called Our Father's House, which reunites street children with their families and gets them off of the streets. And if they can't get them off the streets, they get them into a transitional home or into an orphanage. But working on the issue of street children and those that don't have a place to live, that have been kicked out of their homes, just like he said he was going to years before that. And so watching him, I've known him 10, 11, 12 years now, from the time he was 15. Now he's an adult and has a college education and has a home and has matured in his faith. I mean, he was one of the first people we baptized when we planted one of our first churches. And so to watch this faith mature, and for him to have over a decade maintained a desire to help people that he was in that situation 10 years ago, and now he's able to help them not have to stay in that situation. And watching that maturity is really the joy that we get as our students graduate and as they start to move on. And we have hoped and prayed and talked to them and worked with them and educated them to be servant leaders and to have the skills to help their communities. But to watch somebody actually do it in such an impactful way that I've known personally as well for so long, has just been an amazing journey for us.